Thank you. We're going to move into a presentation today to cover the state and local cybersecurity grant program that is in its second round of funding. There's just shy of $8 million available in this round. There's a fairly narrow application period, so due diligence and getting started early is important. As we've got our strategic partner VC3 joining us today, Dave will talk about the two opportunities that are before you, either a direct application or coming alongside your peers in a joint application. We did that in the first round where we had over a dozen municipalities come alongside one another through a multi-entity application is what it's called, to leverage everybody's collective strengths. So sometimes grant application, paperwork, and the compliance that's associated with it isn't easy. And so we don't want that to be a barrier to your application and to be accessing these funds. So it's a unique opportunity. So you're free to apply for these on your own or potentially join the league's application. So Dave Mims is joining us today. He's the Director of Strategic Partnerships at VC3. He gives us a nice wave there. Hey, Dave, thanks for joining us. And Christina Drews, Wisconsin Account Executive with VC3. And Lauren, if you could promote her so that way she could give a nice wave to folks and people can put a face with the name there. She is the boots on the ground person within VC3's client services team, and we're glad to have them. When it comes to cybersecurity, why does the league care and why is it taking its time and your time to talk about it on a Friday afternoon? Really, it comes down to a lot of times folks don't give it the attention it deserves. There's a lot more pressing demands, just continuity of operations with whether it's delivering basic services, water, wastewater, garbage collection, you name it, and running elections. We understand that sometimes you don't have the opportunity to give cybersecurity the attention. And some of the statistics that we're hearing regarding local governments being, one of the top 3 targeted actors out there, and not a month goes by where we don't hear about a story where a member has been, attacked by ransomware, or in some cases, in a city in a larger city in Wisconsin was out of business for a couple of weeks, where their systems were completely taken offline. They could literally not function. So we don't want that to be you. And so at the league, we've got this partnership and want to elevate this grant opportunity so that way you don't fall prey. It's not a matter of kind of if, it's a matter of when, and Dave will talk a little bit about that. So Dave, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you, and a reminder to folks, the Q&A is open. So please drop your questions in the chat and we'll get through them. Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Again, everyone, I'm Dave Mims. I lead strategic partnerships for VC3, and our focus is serving local governments across the country. The smallest city we serve is about 100 in population. The largest is about 100,000 in population. And we're serving over 1,200 towns and cities across the country. We've helped a number of cities secure the grant funding across each of these states as well. And we work closely with Zach and his team with the first round of funding in Wisconsin, which was just a few months back, and now with this second round of funding that's opening up as well. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to work through quickly a few slides, and then really end our time with any and all questions that you may have about the grant, the technologies, any and all the above. So I'm going to share my screen. So first off, when you look at this next round of funding, it's about double the amount of dollars available in the second round of funding than was in the first round of funding. With this grant year 2023 funding, there's $7.6 million available that can fund up to $100,000 your MFA, your EDR, your MDR, and XDR projects for about 2 years. It can fund those from about the August timeframe till August 31, 2027. So that's almost 2 years of funding to cover the installation, the procurement, and then the ongoing cost for MFA, EDR, MDR, and XDR services. Like what Zach had pointed out earlier, it is a very tight window to secure the funding. The grant deadline is Friday, May 30th, 2025, now less than 60 days away. And as Zach had also shared, there's two routes here. There's a direct application route that you can go on your own to complete the individual grant and get it submitted through the grant system, or you can come alongside with the league under a joint grant application, and we'll help you complete that joint grant application to get the dollars to secure the funding for these projects. So 7.67 million in total available funding throughout the state. You as one entity could get up to $100,000 for to cover costs for about 2 years. And again, the grant deadline is Friday, May 30th. So what are these solutions that the grant will fund? First off, there's MFA. The best way to describe MFA is you're going to need a second factor to identify, to confirm who you are when you log into a system. The first factor is going to be your username and password. And then the second factor is typically a code that you would get to your mobile device, or an application on your mobile device that would generate the code, or even a key fob that would prove the second factor to get you logged in. So MFA can be approved for funding. And then also EDR. The best way to think of EDR is that if you have antivirus today, antivirus is not enough. EDR is modern antivirus. And the difference is that when you think of antivirus, it looks at a signature to know whether or not to allow an application to launch. And let's pretend for a moment this phone was the signature. If a bad person stole my phone or stole that signature, they would think it was me and still be able to be granted access to do something. With EDR, it doesn't just look at signatures, it looks at behavior. So if someone was trying to gain access through a door that had stolen my signature, the antivirus would let it through. But if they attempted it at 2 in the morning, EDR would not, because they know that that's not my behavior. So the best way to think of EDR is it's modern antivirus that doesn't just look at signatures to allow applications to run. It looks at behavior that's being performed, and it's focused on the device. So EDR is going to be a technology that's deployed at your desktop, at your servers or your laptops. So device oriented. MDR takes it a step further. MDR is hunting for suspicious behavior across your network. And it also includes a security operations center that's looking at the information that's coming in from across your network to confirm suspicious behavior. And then there's XDR, which is taking it a step further than your network and looking across your enterprise. It could also include your clouded applications. So wrapping up, the 4 solutions that can be covered by the grant are going to be MFA, it's going to be EDR at the device level, it's going to be MDR at your network level, and then it's going to be XDR across your enterprise and including your clouded assets. But EDR, MDR, and XDR are all hunting for suspicious behavior across those different environments: desktop, network, enterprise. Now, knowing that those 4 solutions are, knowing that, can everyone see my screen? Christina, can you see my screen?
Dave, if you could hit present on the presentation, because we're seeing your edit mode.
Okay, I will do that. Sure.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep. Okay, so the 4 solutions that are covered by the grant: MFA, EDR, MDR, and XDR. Those are great solutions. But one thing to know is that they are not the complete solutions that you need to have in place to protect against bad actors. The solutions that need to be in place for a firm foundation are going to include things like data backup and disaster recovery. The reason why you hear of organizations negotiating with ransomware is because they can't recover after an event. You need to know that you're going to have an incident. It is going to happen. Most incidents occur because staff accidentally let bad actors through your best defense, and that brings down your network. The thing to know with data backup and disaster recovery is that after an incident has occurred, you know that you can recover. The most critical thing that you can do is have a solid data backup in place and know that you can recover. So data backup is critical. EDR is a part of that foundation. It's critical because it hunts for threats on your devices. Security awareness training is also critical because today most incidents occur because a staff member has let them in. So security awareness training is ongoing training to keep staff aware of the types of things bad actors are doing to deceive them. And it could be anything from email to a call to even in person, but it helps train individuals for what to watch for. MFA, again, a part of the best practices, and it is covered by the grant. The advanced threat protection piece, the thing to know with it is knowing that individuals or how most compromises are occurring. How that's coming through is through email, and usually it's a link or an attachment that they click or open, and then that's how the bad guys get through. Advanced threat protection is attempting to monitor the email as it comes through, and suspicious email gets quarantined. If at the server it determines that that link is suspicious or that attachment is bad, it will quarantine at the server and never come down to that user's desktop. So it helps protect those users from ever seeing those bad links or attachments. Dark web monitoring is critical because if your credentials are showing up on the dark web, you've already been compromised. And when end users accidentally click a bad link or open an attachment and they let a bad actor in, the average dwell time that bad actor will be in your environment before they bring down your environment is about 9 months. The reason why bad actors are doing that is so that they can get their largest payday by trying to go further and further into the network and further across your users. So by monitoring the dark web, we can identify if you've already been compromised to help address that before the bad actor brings down your network. So dark web monitoring is critical. Internet content filtering is also protecting your users from going to places they should not go on the internet. And then with Microsoft Office 365 backups, many believe that because their email is in the cloud, that it's backed up, and that's not the case. Having your email in the cloud, if you're only relying upon that hosting, there is a recycle bin. It will keep your files in the recycle bin for up to 90 days, but then they're permanently purged. Data backup needs to not just be your line of business applications and the systems that you've deployed on your network or in the cloud. Microsoft Office 365 also needs to be considered as a part of your backup strategy. And for many, it's not. So the data backups are a critical piece for email. And then also, just as EDR is hunting for suspicious activity on your desktop and MDR is hunting for suspicious activity across your network, within your Microsoft 365 email, also we need to hunt for suspicious activity. And that's what the Microsoft 365 monitoring is. So for a full stack to best protect the city, you need data backup, you need EDR, you need security awareness training, you need MFA, You need advanced threat protection, dark web monitoring, internet content filtering, Microsoft 365 backups, and Microsoft 365 monitoring. It's the full stack. It's going to best protect you when an incident occurs because you're going to be in that situation. Only the ones in blue, dark blue, are what's covered by the grant. That would be EDR and MFA. With managed services, you get all of the solutions that we talked about before, from data backup to the Office 365 monitoring, but you also get IT support 24/7 on-site and remote. You get an IT advisor. Think of them like a virtual CIO that's helping you budget and plan annually and 3 years out and 5 years out. You get an account manager that's helping with the day-to-day, the needs that you've got. A support desk that you can call in from anywhere at any time. It's helping with patch management and keeping your devices up to date. It's comprehensive to come alongside a city that may not have IT, and then also cities that do have IT, helping that team meet the needs of the city. So when you look at the application process, there's again 2 routes here. One route is if you individually choose to complete the application yourself. What you're going to go through as a process with that route is identifying the gaps that are in your environment related to MFA and EDR and MDR and XDR. You're going to work toward quoting what it would take to procure those technologies, deploy those technologies, and then support those technologies ongoing, and then completing the financial portion and the migration path portion of the grant application for that 2-year period that you can request grant dollars for through August 31, 2027. Versus if you go with the league's joint application, you would work with our team, and we would work closely with your city administrator or your city clerk or someone that you designate, and we would help identify the projects to get those solutions deployed and then managed ongoing. But it is going to require a commitment of the managed services being offered through the league. The reason why is that if you only deploy the services that are covered by the grant, you're going to continue to have gaps in your environment. That creates risk for the city. It creates risk for us as well in trying to deploy and support those services. And when an incident occurs, your council, your staff is probably going to wonder, they thought that we were protected. How did this incident occur? And it's going to be because one of these additional gaps, whether it's data backup, whether it's advanced threat protection, those pieces not being in place. So for us to go through the joint application route, if the city commits to the managed service offerings and those additional securities, we're going to help you complete the grant and we're going to get it submitted for you. If, again, you want to only apply for MFA, EDR, MDR, and XDR, you can take the direct grant route and complete the applications yourself. With that route, the place to start would actually be the cybersecurity grant page hosted by the Enterprise Technology Department. Start there. It's going to give you a quick overview, and then it's going to get you to the EM's grants. Once you log in, you'll start completing the application. So try to do a quick overview of what's covered, the timeline, what could be offered through the league, and would really like to spend time on questions about the grant process, the solutions covered, those that are being offered through the league with the managed services. Anybody got questions?
Dave, we've got a couple of polls that we'd like to launch. Lauren, I'll have you launch poll 2 just to get a sense of folks on the call today, whether or not they've got a dedicated IT staff member or IT support within your unit of government. So there's a couple of options there. We'll go ahead and close that poll in 3, 2, 1. Pretty broad smattering. Got some with primary IT staff directly involved, the vendor, kind of on a break fix basis. Some of you with managed services provider, and some of you without any resources at all. So you've come to the right place for all of the above. I would say that whether VC3 can support you in a full-fledged managed services fashion or within a limited service to come alongside your existing resources and services. The other poll we'd like to launch, Lauren, if you could do that, is to get a little sense of folks and their priorities, whether multi-factor authentication or MFA, managed detection response, MDR, endpoint detection response, EDR, or extended detection response, XDR. So that's a multiple choice question we'd like to know from you. What's our priority? And these are the only 4 services, as Dave indicated, of the entire kind of critical services needed to protect yourselves that are covered by the grant this time around. There will be future rounds. I will say the league has been involved in those scoping conversations alongside the other eligible recipients, which are K-12 education, counties, towns, and utilities that are involved in those discussions around scope. So if you have feedback for us on what we should consider, the federal priorities are really to fund services that are not currently in place. And that's, I would stress that for the purposes of this grant, it's not to reimburse you for things you've bought recently or that you may already have in place. It's to fund new cybersecurity, threat detection, et cetera. So we'll go ahead and close that poll. Excellent. Yeah, I think that's great to see kind of across the board that those are your goals. Dave, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it back over to you if you've got any other comments. Otherwise, we'll go to we've got folks that have the ability to drop in questions in the Q&A. We've got a question here. Would this grant cover any Microsoft products like SharePoint that can cover security from within so that employees cannot make massive deletes of files? Dave,
Yep.
the short
Great
answer
question.
is no,
Yep.
but go ahead and address it. Thanks.
Yep, great question. The scope of projects that the grant has approved, both the first rounding fund and this second rounding fund, is limited to MFA, MDR, XDR, and EDR. The additional services and needs outside of that are not covered.
Yeah.
Hopefully in future funding years, they'll expand it, but at this time it's not.
Yeah, great response. I think the other point that I'll stress that the committee has discussed is many municipalities might be on a Gmail or some other platform, and knowing that those aren't backed up. Dave stressed the importance of offsite backups and cloud backups and that sort. The eligible activities that this grant will fund may not be a fit for your municipality because you don't have something like Office 365. And we can't stress enough some of those things. And I think Christina would be your point of contact to talk through, like, how are you eligible? What would it take to get you to the point where you can take advantage of the grant funds to support services that aren't in place? So there might be, I would call it, some shoring up that you may have to do to migrate yourselves off of your existing Gmail services onto, say, a .gov domain, which there is a grant opportunity out there to move yourselves to get a .gov in place. The Wisconsin Elections Commission has a grant that I think covers up to $600, if I'm not mistaken, of funding to put that in place. And Christina can talk to you more about migrating yourselves to a more secure domain. It's not currently required, but it's one of those things that's, you can kind of see around the corner that there's a likely mandate as the Elections Commission looks to protect and safeguard our elections online platforms. So folks are not vulnerable with voter registration rules and reporting associated with the elections here in the state. Other questions? Looks like we've got a question. If we receive the first round of funding, are we able to apply for the second round of funding to continue utilizing MDR services? Yes. The answer is if there are additional services, I would say that, the grant funds the first 2 years. You can't stack a second 2 years if that's the question. Unfortunately, it's meant to kind of stand up services and when you agreed to the funding in the first round, there was a consent or an agreement to continue to fund those services after the grant funding goes away. Dave, anything further to add on that?
Yeah, the one point that I would add is spot on. You can't continue to fund the same licenses under those services, but if you have additional licenses, you could go for funding for the additional licenses. So if your staff has grown, you could go for funding for the additional licenses that would be required. Good question.
Other questions from folks? Lauren has dropped a couple of links in the chat if folks are interested in applying through the league with VC3 and the league supporting the application and moving through that process. The first link, the joint application, is listed there. If you wish to directly apply for the funds with the Department of Enterprise Technology and WEM, there is a link to the direct application. I would stress, if you're going to apply on your own, do not wait to get into the grants portal. There is some effort to get access and logged into it, so that don't wait till May 29th to get that rolling. It really takes some effort and some time to compile the information and get submission in there. Christine, I think your information is listed on the joint application page in terms of how folks can reach you. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Great. I'm not seeing any further questions. Dave, any other parting comments as we think about the opportunity here before us? We've got until May 30th, though the joint application, I believe we're asking folks to get information to us no later than May 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. We need some time to compile the application and get it submitted.
Yeah, a few things that I would offer is I can't stress enough how rare of an opportunity that this is. And I would strongly encourage everyone to submit for the funding, if it's through the league channel with the joint application, or if it's individual. I just want to strongly stress to you, start today, get the funding, and just know this too, is that many times these products are not standalone. Like what Zach had pointed out earlier with the .gov domain. If your city does not have a domain, it will need a domain in order to be able to deploy, for example, MFA or MFA, for example. So just be prepared that when you are looking at scoping what's required to procure, to deploy, to manage these solutions, if you're choosing to do it on your own, you're going to have to scope all of the pieces that need to be in place and implemented to support those technologies. So do not delay. Get started today.
We've got another question that popped in the chat. Lexi has just recently started to work with a cybersecurity provider. Yeah, you certainly can work with that vendor to apply and secure the funds. That would be a direct application process, and they'll be able to tell you what you currently don't have in place and what you'll need in place. Again, the funds will support 2 years of funding those 4 services that we've talked about here today. This recording will live on the League's website, so you'll be able to find it underneath the cybersecurity and technology page under resources. We want to thank you for joining us today. Don't hesitate to reach out. The League box is available to submit some questions. I know the SLCGP Email box is also open. The state staff are monitoring that. If you have follow-up questions, they're also they've got some office hours posted coming up, and those are also posted on our website. So we want to thank you for joining us today. Hopefully take advantage of the funding in this round. If not, we'll be posting more information as it becomes available on future rounds. Thanks, everyone.